Welcome everyone. So we will be learning about the tag helpers for JavaScript and CSS files. So I'll be continuing my series with the ASP.NET 5 version for yogihosting.com tutorials, and subscribe to my channel, and please refer the channel to your friends and like-minded to support me. So let's see what we are going to do. So tag helpers for the JavaScript files. Now there are some important tag helpers for the JavaScript files, which are ASP source include, ASP src include. It specifies the JavaScript files to be included in the view, and ASP src source exclude specifies the JavaScript files to be excluded from the view, and ASP append version, it specifies the query. This is a cache busting feature we'll be studying in detail, and it specifies the query string to be applied to the JavaScript file path when the contents of the file changes, like when the contents of the CSS, JavaScript or image files change. And ASP fallback source include, exclude, and fallback test. So hang on, let's see what we are going to study. So now, including JS files in the view, how do we include? Let's include a bootstrap.js file in the layout.cshtml file, and the location of the file is this, which we'll see after moving to the Visual Studio. So let's switch over to the Visual Studio. Now I have flipped over to Visual Studio, our learn tag helper project that we have started earlier. So now dub root, and then lib, then Twitter bootstrap, and then CSS and JavaScript, and then bootstrap.js. Okay, and within the bootstrap.js file there will be bootstrap.bundle.js, bootstrap.js.map, and bootstrap, and on the same level as bootstrap.bundle.js we have got bootstrap.mint.js. Now here these four files, bootstrap.js, bootstrap.bundle.js, bootstrap.bundle.min.js, and bootstrap.min.js, these four files are in the same location. Now let's go to the layout file, which is opened in front of me, and I will add the ASP source include tag helper. So I have added this markup script and end script, between end script and end script. ASP source include this file path lib slash under lib Twitter bootstrap, under Twitter bootstrap then you have got CSS, JS, etc. So this is denoted by star star double star, and then front slash star.js. Now if you run this application now and look at the, there is some problem over here, it didn't build successfully. Let's see, unable to remove directory. So let's clean the application and rebuild. In such a case, I have actually resorted to cleaning the solution and rebuilding, which takes care of everything. So rebuild succeeded, and then I will click on the IIS Express icon, unable to launch the configured video. 64900 is in use. So let's see. So what I did was to close the application and restart the application, and I found that it has come up nicely, and it is showing me the application is properly rendered. And let's right click and view the source HTML code generated. Now here you can see that the script source has got this file bootstrap.js and bootstrap.bundle.js. Let me magnify it a little bit. So control. So you can see 1, 2, and then 3 bootstrap.bundle.min.js and bootstrap.min.js. So these four files have been included in the script. Okay, so let's stop this application now. Now here the ASP source include, ASP src include tag helper generates the script tag for files that matches the pattern. Now if we only want the bootstrap.bundle.js file included, Then we'll use the matching pattern, which is now ASP source include and lib slash Twitter bootstrap slash star star slash. It will be, instead of star.js, it will be star bundle.js to filter it out with that. So this is if we want to only generate the bootstrap.bundle.js file to be included. So let's now run the application once more. So this is the rendered view again, and this is the source code generated. You can see here it just includes the bootstrap.bundle.js as we said through this filter, through this matching pattern. Okay, let's close the application again. Now let's see how to exclude JS files from the view. The ASP source exclude tag helper is used to exclude files from the view. Okay, so let's see how it happens. Now let's actually comment this markup, the script tag, and then instead you paste this one, and this time we use this particular script code or script to remove all the slim and min and bundle JavaScript files from adding to the view. Now if we run our application once more, so here you can find that there is no script, no JavaScript file included. That's by mistake actually, by mistake I have actually forgot to append Twitter in front of Bootstrap. So let's break this application again, correct this code, correct this markup. So Twitter, Bootstrap, and then run this application by Control F5 without debugging. So build errors, no. So again unable to remove the directory, bin directory. So I will just clean it up once more. Okay, and once you clean it, you will find that you will be able to run this application by this IIS Express or even Control F5 without debugging. So this time we find that we only have this bootstrap.js file added this time. Okay, so because we have already taken care of to exclude the min and the bundle and other files. So the next thing is that we'll see what are the cache busting features from ASP fragment tag helper. So just close this application again. Now images, CSS files and JavaScript files are cached on the browser. So when you visit a page that requires these cache files, then the browser provides these files to the web page directly from its cache. Now this makes the page load faster as these files are not requested from the server. But suppose you change one of the image files or the style sheet or the JavaScript files on your servers, and the browser will still continue to provide this cached file which we don't want. So the new changes are not reflected on the pages unless we do the cache busting feature with the ASP fragment tag helper. So what that is, I'll show in a bit. Now in this existing markup that we did last time, all I need to append is another piece of tag helper, that is ASP, just follow me, ASP append version equals true. Okay, so it will append the version. Basically what it does, and let me show you first by running this application. Let's see, Control F5 without debugging, Control F5, and again there's a build error. Again I have to debug this. I'll have to just rebuild, clean the solution. Now if we see the source, this is the view source for this view. It will show you a query string bootstrap.js version equal to such and such and such and such. Now this query string is added to the URL of the JS file or the file that has changed, that contains a checksum that acts as a version number. Now when you make any changes to the JavaScript file, then the checksum automatically changes. Okay, the checksum automatically changes and the browser knows that now it needs to download the latest JS file from the server and do its caching again. Okay, so this is the ASP append version, which is known as ASP fragment tag helper. Now this is not restricted to JavaScript only. This cache busting feature is available for image as well as CSS file. When the change, so the cache busting feature, if it is enabled, they will serve the content from the latest version from the server and won't serve the cached version, which is what we don't want anyway. Now next topic is about including JavaScript files from content delivery networks using tag helpers. Now CDNs or content delivery networks contain a number of data servers distributed around the globe. All of these data servers have a saved copy of the website static files like image, CSS and JS. When a user opens the website in the browser, then rather than requesting the static files from the website servers, it requests them from the data server that is closest to the geographic location of the user. Now in this application, I will show you by using a jQuery from the ASP.NET CDN. All right. So now I will get rid of all the earlier script tags and then include this part. This is the let me get this extra script end tag. Okay, so this is from the CDN ajax.asp.net cdn.com/ajax/jQuery321.min.js. Okay, now the ASP fallback src include and ASP fallback src exclude and ASP fallback test tag helpers are made specifically to work with the CDNs. Okay, suppose, and we have seen it in the slide. So these are some of the important tag helpers for the JavaScript files which you have seen at the beginning of this lecture. ASP source include, ASP source exclude we have already seen, and this is also the render fragment for cache busting feature. And now ASP fallback source include and ASP fallback source exclude and ASP fallback test. We will be seeing them in conjunction with the content delivery network. So let's switch over back to Visual Studio. So now I have suitably changed this content delivery network with these ASP different tags: source include, source exclude, and source test. The src attribute of the script tag specifies the ASP.NET CDN location to load jQuery. The ASP fallback src include and ASP fallback src exclude tag helpers are used to select and exclude local jQuery files in case of CDN failure. And ASP fallback test is actually a test actually. So this tag helper defines the JavaScript code here window.jQuery that will be evaluated on the browser. If this code fails, only then ASP fallback source include and ASP fallback source exclude tags will play their part. Right. So this much is sufficient for JavaScript tag helpers. Now let's switch over to tag helpers for CSS filing. So the built-in tag helpers for CSS files are used for managing their inclusion and exclusion, much like the same way as the JavaScript files we have seen, the tag helpers for managing the inclusion and exclusion of JavaScript files. In the same way, we have got the CSS files. So in this case, it is ASP href include, ASP href exclude, ASP append version, ASP fallback href include, and ASP fallback href exclude, and there are 3 more. So let's study in some detail. So including CSS files on the view, the ASP href include tag helpers is used to include, this will be include files from the view, and for excluding CSS files from the view, the ASP href exclude tag helper is used to exclude files from the view. Okay, so let's see them in action by coming out of this and switching over to Visual Studio. So let's change this default CSS default link tag for the CSS file to show what I want to. Now this will actually this double star pattern, it is used for any number of characters including the front slash character, and this single star is for any number of characters excluding the front slash. This is the front slash characters. Now this will add the files whose name end with .css. So let's run this application again. Let's see, Control F5 if it works. First save all the files, or save a single file if you think only one file has been changed. So let's run this application again. So again I have made the same mistake. This is actually Twitter Bootstrap. So Twitter is appended in front of Bootstrap, Twitter Bootstrap, and then save it and then run this application. Control F5. So we can see that these there are 3 CSS files have been used: bootstrap-grid.min.css, and then bootstrap reboot.min.css, and then bootstrap.min.css. Okay. So this is the document that I am following. So this also is in conjunction with what we get in this documentation: bootstrap.grid, bootstrap-grid.min.css, bootstrap reboot.min.css, bootstrap.min.css. Now let's exclude CSS files on the view. So for that we have got ASP href exclude. This tag helper is used to exclude CSS files from the view. Now we'll use this tag helper to remove the reboot and grid CSS files. So what we'll do, we'll keep this JavaScript tag as it is, and we'll change the link tag for the CSS with this code. Just copy from here and this go back to here and change the existing link tag to the tag that I have copied. Okay. So I made a small change to amend my mistake of not appending, forgetting the Twitter part in front of Bootstrap again and again, and then click on the IIS Express link. Let's this time click the IIS link, Express link, and the build errors is no, let's not build it from the one of the earlier compiled versions. So let's clean this application once more, clean the solution, and it is clean, is succeeded, and IIS Express. Click on the IIS Express icon to run this application again. Now the application is again rendered, and I have gone to the HTML code view source, and you can see those things that we wanted to filter out: the reboot and this one, ASP href exclude reboot, something with reboot and grid. So they have now been filtered out, resulting in a clean bootstrap.min.css only existing. You can also include CSS files from content delivery networks, CSS files like we did for the JavaScript files. You can do it for the CSS files as well using tag helpers. Let me show you how to add bootstrap.min.css file from the Mac CD. So let me change this part, link and end link tag, which I have shown you in the previous learning outcome, to include CDN, style sheet from the CDN, macdn.bootstrapcdn.com. Okay, and this file is bootstrap.min.css, and click on save, and let's explain the ASP fallback, href include, href exclude, test class, test property, and test value. Now the href attribute specifies the CDN URL. This is the CDN URL, as you know. You must be already aware, which in my case is the macdn URL. Okay, for the bootstrap.min.css file. The ASP fallback href include and ASP fallback href exclude tag helpers are used to select the files from the website directory if the CDN is unavailable. If it is not available, then you fall back to our original file folder on our machine. Now the next three tag helpers are used to test whether the bootstrap file correctly downloaded from the CDN. So test class, test property, and test value. These tag helpers are, as you can see here, ASP fallback test class, ASP fallback test property, and ASP fallback test value. They work by adding a meta element to the document that has been added to the class defined by the ASP fallback test class tag helper. Okay. So in my case, the meta element added to the document will be meta name equals x style sheet dash fallback dash test class equals button. Okay. Now the ASP fallback test property tag, this is the property tag, is used to specify a CSS property that is set by this CSS class. Here this CSS class is button, and the ASP fallback test value is inline block is used to specify the value that it will be set to. These tag helper also add JavaScript to the view that tests the value of the CSS property on the meta element to figure out whether the CSS file has been loaded perfectly from the CDN or not. If the JavaScript test fails, then the fallback CSS files are used instead. So that's all for today.